welcome to the deep dive. So you've given us your sources, and we're here to, well, dig into them and pull out what you really need to know. Hopefully make it efficient, maybe even a bit fun.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Today, our focus is very much on a new book that's making some waves. It's called the #One Dad Book. Be the best dad you can be in 1 hour.
Right, by James Patterson.
That's all.
You know, James Patterson.
Exactly, the super prolific author. It just came out May 12th, 2025. And we've also got some background information on Patterson himself from the sources. So for you, our listener, the learner, the idea here is to give you a pretty solid grasp of what this book is about, its core message, and, Patterson's take on fatherhood, all pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. We've gone through the publication details, the advice itself, what critics are saying, what early readers think.
Okay.
And what's kind of fascinating, I think, is looking at how someone famous for, thrillers and complex stories, how he tackles something like being a dad.
Right. Does that storyteller's perspective offer something, well, different compared to the usual parenting guides?
That's the question, isn't it? Where do we start? The basics of the book itself.
Yeah, let's lay the groundwork. So the title again, the #One Dad Book, Be the Best Dad You Can Be in 1 Hour.
That 1 hour part definitely catches the eye.
It really does. Okay, so it's out in hardcover, Kindle, and audiobook. Lengthwise, it's pretty slim, 192 pages.
Yeah, definitely not a huge time commitment there.
Published by Little Brown and Company. And the price seems reasonable, about $12.50 for the hardcover.
Kindle's a bit more, $14.99.
Right, and the audiobook, interestingly, is listed as $0, but with a membership trial, so accessible formats.
Definitely trying to reach a wide audience, and it seems to be working, based on the rankings.
Yeah, tell me about that. It's already hit #1.
#1 bestseller, yeah, specifically in parenting boys on Amazon, which is quite specific.
Huh, interesting niche.
And it's doing well overall, too, like #11 in all books, #1 in fatherhood books, #5 in success self-help.
Wow, okay. So it's clearly striking a chord right out of the gate.
It seems so. And early reviews. A perfect 5.0 stars, though, based on only 6 ratings so far, so it's still early days.
Still, 5.0 is 5.0. That in 1 hour title. What does that suggest to you about its whole approach? Is it really just an hour?
Well, probably not literally transforming you in 60 minutes, right? But it suggests, I think, a focus on efficiency, actionable stuff.
Yeah, like bite-sized advice you can use immediately, maybe, not some dense psychological textbook.
Exactly. Quick hits for busy dads, which makes sense. The bestseller status kind of backs that up. People want accessible guidance.
And Patterson's name obviously helps get it noticed.
Oh, absolutely. Huge factor.
So what is the actual advice then? If it's aiming for this quick impact, what are the core things he's telling dads to do?
Well, the source material mentions he frames it as his homework. Like he went out and talked to experts, talked to other dads, and sort of compiled the wisdom.
Okay, collected insights. Makes sense.
And the theme seems to be about small, consistent actions, not grand gestures, but the daily stuff.
Like what specifically?
Things like starting the day with a hug. Simple, right?
Yeah, very simple.
Talking to your kids before they can even speak. Just getting them used to your voice, the interaction.
Okay, I see. Building that connection early.
Right. And then talking about everything as they grow, keeping lines of communication open, reading to your kids, and then having them read to you later on.
Shared reading, yeah.
Yeah.
Classic advice, but good advice.
Definitely. Also, telling your kids your story, like who you are, your experiences, helping them figure out who they are.
Letting them know you.
And having their backs, Being supportive. And maybe the biggest one, just showing up every day, being present.
Right. Just be there. It sounds fundamental, but maybe that's the point. These everyday things add up.
That seems to be the core message. And that makes the in 1 hour title maybe less about a magic fix and more about adopting these small habits starting now.
Like the change begins quickly if you just start doing these things.
Yeah, exactly. There's a quote mentioned, "Dad, your new life begins in 1 hour." It emphasizes that immediacy. Start now. See the difference build over time.
Okay, that makes more sense. How are the critics taking it? Does the reception match this idea of accessible, practical advice?
It really seems to. Ron Howard, for instance, called it hilarious and sharp on everything and more about being a dad.
Hilarious and sharp suggests it's not dry.
Definitely not. USA Today noted its breezy voice, saying it avoids lecturing, eschews hectoring for cajoling was the phrase.
Cajoling, I like that. Sounds encouraging.
Yeah, and they called it a labor of love and a love letter to fellow fathers. So a very positive, relatable tone seems to come through.
Okay. Yes.
Booklist said it's funny and wise and good for overwhelmed new dads looking for reassurance. Publishers Weekly mentioned Patterson's wry touch and the focus on progress over perfection.
Progress over perfection. That's a good takeaway for parenting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Takes the pressure off.
For sure. And then there's the Kirkus review, which had that really memorable comparison.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
They called it a mind meld of Dr. Spock and Dr. Seuss.
Wow. Spock meets Seuss. That's evocative. What do you make of that?
Well, Spock implies, trustworthy, practical advice, solid guidance.
Right. The authority.
And Dr. Seuss implies, what? Fun, engaging, maybe a bit playful, accessible storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. So reliable advice delivered in an engaging, maybe even entertaining way. That actually sounds like it fits Patterson's skill set perfectly.
It really does. Which brings us to Patterson himself. Knowing his background adds a whole layer to this, I think.
Yeah, tell us a bit about that. We know he writes a lot, but what's the scope?
I mean, prolific barely covered it. He's been called the most popular storyteller of our time. He created Alex Cross, the Women's Murder Club, Maximum Ride for Young Adults. The list goes on.
So huge success in fiction, thrillers, YA, very different genres.
Exactly, but he's also done a lot of nonfiction. True stories about the Kennedys, John Lennon, Tiger Woods, also military heroes, police officers, ER nurses.
Okay, so he's tackled real lives and serious subjects too.
And he's co-authored bestsellers with,
Right.
President Bill Clinton, Dolly Parton, even Michael Crichton posthumously.
That's an incredibly diverse portfolio. Clinton and
Mm.
Dolly Parton. Wow.
It shows an amazing ability to adapt his style and connect with different subjects and audiences. Right?
Absolutely. It makes you wonder what that storytelling skill brings to writing about fatherhood. He's not, say, a child psychologist by trade.
No, he's not. His expertise is in communication, understanding people, what makes them tick, how to tell a compelling story, whether it's fiction or nonfiction.
And he wrote his own biography too, didn't he? James Patterson by James Patterson.
He did. Suggests he's willing to be personal, share his own perspective, which probably feeds into this dad book.
And the awards? Edgar Award, Emmys, National Book Foundation Literarian Award, National Humanities Medal. That speaks to his impact.
Yeah, he's not just popular, he's critically recognized across different fields. It's quite a resume.
So how are actual readers, dads or people buying it for dads, reacting? You mentioned the 5-star rating. What are they saying in the reviews?
Well, the feedback so far is really positive, echoing a lot of what the critics picked up on.
Like what?
Okay, there's one from TJ Pollies, who identifies as a grandfather. He said it was a quick read, finished in an evening, found great advice, lots of humor.
Humor keeps coming up.
Yeah. And he also said it brought back memories for him, good times, and even things he wished he'd done differently. So it sparked reflection. He called it funny and wise.
That's interesting. Resonates even with a grandfather reflecting back.
Right. Then another reviewer, Vicky Watts, called it a practical, humorous, witty, and honest book. Again, emphasizing it's a short read with practical tips. She liked how it approached parenting with humor and these short, memorable stories or vignettes.
Practical, humorous, witty, honest. Sounds like a good combo for this topic.
Definitely. Another one, Carla, who said she's a daughter of dads, called it an important quick read with wonderful insights.
So appealing even from a daughter's perspective on what makes a good dad.
It seems so. And Liz Bullard, who got an advance copy, also mentioned the humor and thoughtfulness. Said it made her laugh and smile, remember touching moments. She felt the guidance was thoughtful and gentle, but firm when needed.
Gentle but firm.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good balance. So the conciseness, the humor, the practical advice, these themes are consistent across critics and readers.
Yeah, it really seems like he delivered on the promise of the title, distilling useful ideas into an accessible format. It's not trying to be the definitive, exhaustive encyclopedia of fatherhood.
Right. It's more like a focused and encouraging starting point or maybe a booster shot for experienced dads.
Exactly. Leveraging that storytelling skill to connect and motivate rather than overwhelm.
Okay, so let's try to summarize this deep dive then. We looked at the hashtag One Dad Book by James Patterson. It's a concise, humor-filled guide, offers practical, everyday advice for dads.
Yeah, based on his own homework, talking to people. Focuses on small, consistent actions, hugs, talking, reading, showing up.
And it's written by, one of the world's biggest authors, bringing his storytelling flair to the topic. Seems to be getting a warm reception from critics and early readers for being accessible and encouraging.
Pretty much sums it up. It's delivering quick, actionable ideas in an engaging package.
All right, so here's something to leave you thinking about. We've talked a lot about Patterson the storyteller. Considering his incredibly varied background thrillers, nonfiction, collaborations, what unique angle or strength might his storytelling background really offer to fatherhood advice? How might it be fundamentally different from a guide written by, say, a developmental psychologist?
That's a great question. Is it about emotional connection, motivation, reframing challenges?
Yeah, and maybe think bigger too. Are there other areas where we might benefit from the perspectives of great storytellers? Could they offer fresh takes on everyday challenges or complex issues simply by knowing how to frame a narrative and connect with us on a human level? What unexpected wisdom might be found there? Something to mull over?